You've tried everything: breathing, journaling, thinking your way out of it. But the worry still comes back. It always does. No matter how much you understand it, no matter how many times you've told yourself to let go, it still sits in the back of your mind, reminding you that something could go wrong, that you're not ready, that something bad might happen if you relax too much. But here's the thing. You don't still worry because of what's happening around you. You worry because of one simple reason most people never talk about, and once you understand it, you'll never look at your thoughts the same again. Let's talk about it. This is the truth most people never say out loud. You still worry because deep down you believe it's useful, that it's doing something, that by worrying, you're protecting yourself, preparing, getting ahead of something. You think worry equals responsibility. You think calm means careless. You've trained your mind to believe, if I stay alert, I won't get hurt. If I think through every outcome, I'll be ready. If I stress enough, nothing will catch me off guard. But none of that is real. It feels responsible, but it's actually just anxiety disguised as preparation. Because here's what you're really doing. You're trying to control the future with your thoughts, trying to think your way into peace, trying to imagine your way out of risk. And all that does is trap you in your head. You don't move, you don't act, you don't rest, you sit there, living in fake scenarios, while your actual life waits on pause. And the worst part? When you convince yourself that worry is helping, you never question it. You never challenge it, you just keep feeding it. So the first step to ending worry is to be brutally honest about what it is. It's not protecting you. It's just stealing your time. It's not making you smarter. It's just keeping you stuck. You don't need to stress to stay safe. You need to stop confusing fear with wisdom. Let's go deeper. If you've been worrying for most of your life, you've probably forgotten what it feels like to live without that constant background noise. That mental hum of what if. That little spike in your chest when things feel too quiet. That strange guilt when you actually relax. And here's the truth. You don't just worry because you think it helps. You worry because it's familiar. It's become part of your identity. You don't realize it, but a part of you is emotionally addicted to the feeling of being on edge. Because it gives you something to do. It keeps your mind busy. It fills the silence. And when things finally calm down, you almost feel uncomfortable, like something must be wrong. Because your nervous system is so used to tension that peace starts to feel unfamiliar, even unsafe. It's not your fault. You were just conditioned this way. Most of us were taught that being worried equals being responsible. We were praised for overthinking, for caring too much, for staying up late with stress on our shoulders. So now, even when nothing's going wrong, your mind looks for something to grab onto. It scans your day. It replays old conversations. It imagines futures you'll never live, just so it doesn't feel empty. And this is the loop. You worry not because you're broken, but because you don't know who you are without the noise. So what's the shift? You stop seeing peace as doing nothing, and start seeing it as returning to yourself. Not passive, not careless, just real. Because the version of you that's calm, present, and grounded, that's not fake. That's you underneath the habit. And the only way to meet that version again is to stop letting worry take its place. Now that you understand that worry isn't just a reaction, it's a habit, you can start working with it instead of being dragged by it. Most people wait until they're already deep in the spiral. They only notice the worry once their chest is tight, their thoughts are racing, and their mood is already off. But real change doesn't happen after the worry takes over. It happens right before, in that tiny space between stimulus and response. That's the moment that changes everything. You feel the first thought rise up. What if I mess this up? What if something goes wrong? And instead of gripping it like a rope pulling you into a storm, You pause. You don't fight the thought. You don't try to fix it. You just watch it like you would a passing car. Because here's the truth. You don't owe every thought your full attention. Let it pass. Let it fade without chasing it. Worry thrives when you feed it, when you follow it with more thinking, more imagining, more fear. But when you just notice it without clinging, it fizzles. It's about reclaiming your space. It's learning to say, I see you, thought, but I don't have to follow you today. Because every time you do that dash, every time you notice without reacting, you're breaking the old pattern. You're rewiring your system. You're proving to your brain that you're safe, even when you're not worrying. And slowly, the addiction starts to fade. You return to clarity, not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding the noise. That's how the shift happens. You don't conquer worry like it's a dragon. You outgrow it like an old skin that doesn't fit anymore. Now let's go even deeper into why we worry. Not the surface reason, not just fear or stress, but the core programming behind it. Worry is your mind's desperate way of trying to feel in control. The brain doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't like not knowing what's next. So it builds imaginary scenarios, plans, and predictions, not to solve anything, but to feel like it's doing something. That's what worry is, a mental ritual to avoid feeling helpless. But here's the twist. It doesn't actually make you safer. It just gives you the illusion of safety, while slowly draining your energy, your presence, and your clarity. Think about it. How many of your worries from last week came true? How many things did you lose sleep over? That never happened. Exactly. But even knowing that, your brain will keep trying to pull you back, because it's not about facts. It's about habit and survival programming. Now here's the key. The peace you're chasing by worrying, you only find it when you stop trying to force control. That doesn't mean you become passive or careless. It means you finally accept that not everything is yours to carry. You're allowed to say, this isn't mine to figure out right now. You're allowed to sit with discomfort instead of fixing it instantly. You're allowed to pause instead of planning 10 steps ahead. That's not weakness. That's emotional strength most people never reach. Because it takes far more power to say, I don't know, and that's okay, than it does to overthink everything into the ground. That's what real surrender is. Not giving up, not being naive, but trusting that you can face what comes without rehearsing every disaster beforehand. And in that space, worry no longer feels like your only option. It becomes just one voice, not the one in charge. Let's be honest. You've been carrying too much, trying to manage what might happen, trying to plan your way into peace, trying to stay 3 steps ahead of life just in case something goes wrong. But that version of you, the one who keeps scanning the future, doubting everything, replaying what-ifs in your head, that version is tired. Not because you're weak, but because no human being was meant to live inside constant mental rehearsal. And here's the part most people miss. Worry isn't always loud. Sometimes it just shows up as tension, as that invisible weight on your shoulders, as that feeling you can't fully relax, because something always needs your attention. But what if there's nothing to fix? What if this moment, this one right now, isn't a test, isn't a trap, isn't a warning? What if it's just life? And your only job is to stop treating your thoughts like orders, to stop turning every feeling into a problem, to stop trying to solve yourself every time you feel uncertain. You're not broken. You're just used to believing that the only way to stay safe is to stay worried. But now you know better. You've seen what worry really is. A habit, a noise, a mental reflex. It doesn't need to be silenced. It just needs to be seen for what it is. And let go. Not by force, not with effort, but with the quiet decision to stop feeding it. So if you're watching this and you're tired of carrying it all, let that be enough. You don't have to fix your mind. You just have to stop letting it convince you that peace isn't possible. Because it is, and it starts right here. The moment you stop treating every thought like the truth.